his crossbencher, will you please welcome Digby Jones.
Well, thank you, JJ, and good evening and welcome to the Marylebone sauna. I'll stand still for 2 minutes, there's going to be a lot of water on the floor, and that's only because I'm nervous. It's lovely, lovely to be given the choice and the privilege of saying a few words about my mate. And as you know, and you just heard in the introduction, I'm a crossbench peer, so I don't do any of this party politics rubbish. And I believe business and wealth creation should transcend all of that stuff. I mean, they're at it now, aren't they? I mean, on one side you've got this furry little woodland creature, got in with the block vote of the RSPCA. On the other side you've got a chancellor who's just come off his gap year. So I don't do any of that, I'm politically independent. In fact, I'm still the only minister the country's ever had who didn't belong to the party of government. And so at the general election, I said to Stanley, I said, do you think it'd be a good idea if I sort of went and talked a bit about business in the hustings? And he said, yeah, great stuff. He said, go on, let's go and do it. So I wrote to all three parties and I said, I'll come, but you ought to know I'm doing it for all three parties. So I'm keeping my non-alignment, I'm neutral, but I'm going to offer all three. And I got a letter back from one lot saying, love you today, thank you very much, yes please, could you go to so-and-so? Yeah, fine. And I got a letter from the other lot, would you like it? Yeah, fine. And I'm still waiting to hear from the third lot. So I wonder how Vince Cable is these days. And so I found myself on a wet Wednesday evening during the 2010 election campaign in a village hall in a suburb of one of the great industrial cities of this nation. 7:29, the allotted time for meeting 7:30, and the audience numbered 1. Oh well, I thought that's politics, I better get on with it. So I did, and he was a brilliant audience actually. Clapped a couple of times, laughed once, right? Anyway, I got to the end and I said, look, if it's all the same to you, I think we'll skip the Q&A. And I'll get on my way. He said, I'd rather you didn't actually, because I'm the next speaker. Let me take you back to 2006, early 2026, 5 years, 5.5 years old. And I was the longest serving CBI Director General they ever had. I was a kid from Brum, I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. In fact, when I took this call in 1999 and this headhunter said, I'd like to talk to you about the new Director General of the CBI, and I even said then, who's that going to be? And he said, what? And I thought he was ringing me for a reference on someone else, and that's the absolute truth. And he said, we thought you'd put your name forward. I said, me? You must be joking. I said, that goes to clever grey-suited people from London. He said, exactly, we want to make a difference. So he knew I wasn't clever. I wasn't grey-suited, I didn't come from London. And I went and did the job, did it differently. And as I started doing speeches and getting a little bit of a profile for the CBI, and of course at the same time for yourself, this guy came to see me, never met him in my life before, called Stanley Jackson. Sits down, and he says, what are you going to do, Dad, when you leave this? And I said, I don't really know, I'll probably go plural. And he said, well, do you need someone to look after you? And I said, well, Pat's failed in the last 28 years, so maybe. And he said, well, I'll try and do that for you. He said, we'll soon know how good you are. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I'll put you out at X. He said, and in a year's time, you'll be a bit more than that, or you'll be nothing. And if you're a bit more than that, I'm going to be a lucky lad, he said. And if you're nothing, then you've lost. I said, oh, jolly good. And Stanley took me under his wing. And I had never been in this world before. I was a complete stranger to it. And I felt, for all of my arrogance and conceit, I felt very alone and I felt very vulnerable. And he made me feel $1 million. And he has this knack of just being for you and with you, without ever dominating you. And I think that's a very precious and rare thing. And if you ever go on Google and and type in Jackson, up comes the ancient Sanskrit for Jackson. And it means reliable, trustworthy, decent and fair. The problem is, if you do the same thing with Stanley, ancient Sanskrit for Stanley is not very. And then everything took off and it all happened, and all the way through it, whenever I have needed just 5 minutes of very private and just between you and me, Stanley, was that my finest moment or my worst, and do you think I should do this, and what do you think about that? He's always been there for me, and I see him as a doyen of this very funny old business of ours. So tonight, you've got your friends with you tonight, my friend, and if you have already bought his book, thank you. If you haven't, I know where you live. But it's a privilege to come and just, not only just support you, but publicly to tell everybody that, yes, you might be bloody good, and yes, you might run a good business, but more than any of that, you're in me. And that matters more than anything. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much.